Welcome. This is the 500th video on the channel, so it's very, very special. For those that are watching, if you didn't subscribe yet, now is a great time to subscribe. We are continuing with what we're calling stories of the Talmud Ein Yakov, or in Eiruvin, chapter 2. There's more seats over here if you want to sit. Perek Sheni, chapter 2. This is a discussion about Adam and Chava, first man and first woman, whom Torah tells us Hashem created him, and then he created her from him. And we're going to discuss a little bit how that took place, what exactly was it, different opinions, and so on. Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Elazar, Rabbi Yirmiyah the son of Elazar said, "Du parts of panim hayu leila Adam harishan." Adam harishan had two faces. Shenemar acher v'kedem tzartani. He quotes a pasuk, a verse in Tehillim, where David HaMelech, King David, says that I created him, or he created me, front and back, or back and front. And what that implies, says Rabbi Yirmiyah, that Adam and Chava were really part of one body. Adam was the front facing, Chava was the back facing, and they were separated, and she was created. Ksiv, so the Gemara asks the question, how could you say that Adam Arishan had a front and a back, so to speak? There's two parts to him. One was Adam, one was Chava. The pasuk literally, clearly says, "Vayiven Elikim es hatzela." Hashem built the side that he took from Adam, and he built Chava, created Chava. So how could you say that Chava was already there? She was just separated from Adam. So Rav and Shmuel argue about the meaning of this word, or this pasuk. Vayiven Hashem Elikim es hatzela. Now, a brief introduction. Rav and Shmuel have a consistent way of learning psukim and Torah. Rav generally takes it literal. If it says a word as literal as possible, is the pshat, the meaning of that word. For example, in this week's parsha, Torah says, "Vayakam melech chadash al Mitzrayim." A new king came on Mitzrayim. This new king, Rashi brings the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says it was literally a new king. If it says new, that means new. Shmuel doesn't always learn exactly literal translation to be the pshat. He says if it says chadash, it means his decrees were renewed. In other words, he started changing the way he was conducting Egypt, the kingdom, his laws, his attitude towards the Jewish people, and so on. So Rav, you see, goes literal. Chadash means chadash mamish, and there was a new king in Egypt, not the same one that Yosef was viceroy to, not the same one that Yosef interpreted the dreams correctly and saved Egypt from famine and made them such a wealthy place, and so on. It's a different one. New king means new king. And Shmuel says no, he just made as if he was new. So in this verse here as well, when it talks about Hashem building the side of man and he created Chava, so Rav says partzuf, v'chad amar zanov. One, Rav says this was a face, as we just said in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, that it was Adam Arishan had two faces. That's how Rav learns the pasuk. Shmuel ever says Zanov. It was the Chad Amar Zanov. It was a tail. You could say tail. You could say part. But let's go with the literal meaning of the Gemara. Zanov. It was a tail, and out of the tail of Adam, I know sometimes they say it's a rib or a bone. They say it's a side, but here the Gemara uses the term Zanov, a tail, and he created Chava. So again, we have a pasuk to back it up. Just two different ways how to learn what that pasuk is. But this is becoming a contradiction, at least according to Rav, to what the Gemara just said, that he was created with two sides. So Bishlam Amar Partzov, according to Shmuel, it's an issue. According to Rav, who said it was a face, that's why the pasuk says, I created front and back, because there was a front face and there was a back. One was Adam, one was Chava. Which one was which? We have to clarify still, but that makes sense if you say that it was a side of a face of Adam. He had two faces, meaning a side of him that was male, a side female, and that became Chava. Elamad Amar Zanav, but according to the opinion that says she was not formed from the from the form of him, rather from a tail or a side or a rib, bone, etc., Then Mike, why does David HaMelech say in Tehillim front and back? It's not front and back. There's a side. There's a tail. It's not the back. He wasn't created in a way that he was this duality, and Chava was already attached to him. She was just separated. So we want to back up, at least reconcile the definition of the pasuk when David HaMelech says front and back was created, and what the statement from Rabbi Yirmiyah, the son of Elazar, who is implying that Adam Arishon was created with two faces. How does this work? So he says, Kid Rabbi Ami. We could use a teaching from Rabbi Ami to understand this. It's true, the pasuk says, front and back I created him, or he created me, meaning man. But it's not necessarily meaning a face in the front and a face in the back. Rather, it's implying something interesting about Adam Arishon's life. That man, the human being, which is Adam is the prototype, was created Acher L'Maaseh V'Reishis. He's the last of creation. Because when was he created? On Friday, midday, or late morning. So Adam Arishon was created after all the other parts of creation. The world was here already, heaven and earth, grass, fish, birds, animals, angels, everything was already here. And then came Adam. So Acher doesn't mean face in the back, it means last. Back, in Hebrew, Acher can mean back, can mean last. And here it means, the way we're going to interpret it, it means he was created last. When it comes to creation, he's created last. The Kedem Lifur Anus. And he was created front, means front for punishment. There's a front meaning he's the first one. He may have been created last, but when it comes to punishing creation or creatures, as we'll soon see, he was first. Bishlema Achal Ma'aseh V'Reishis. The Gemara says, what do you mean? If you want to say he was created last, fine. Lo Ibred Ma'ala Shabsai. He wasn't created until Friday. We get it. What do you mean that Adam, or man, was the first for punishment? Where do you find that? If you're talking about if you're talking about the cursing after the sin of eating the forbidden fruit from the Eitz Hadas, we are told that Torah tells us that they were cursed. Who was cursed first? Not Adam. First, if you look at the pasuk, first the snake, the Nachash, who got Chava to sin and then got Adam to sin, he was punished, was first. The Nachash was punished first. Afterwards, and then after that, the end was Chava was cursed, the punishment that she got, that it will be difficult to bear children and other things, painful. And afterwards, Adam was cursed. So how could you say that the word Acher does not mean that there was a second face, so to speak, a behind of Adam, out of which Chava was formed, but it means something else, and last of punishment, first of punishment, he's not first of punishment. Right? How could you say it means front, there was a front which is creation, and last is not behind, but it means punishment, but it means creation, and front means punishment, where he wasn't punished first, he was actually punished last. Elo lemabel. Rather, it means by the flood of Noach, who was punished first. When it talks about the process of the flood wiping out the creations, it says from man to animal. So man came first. First man was punished, and then the animals perished, because they were also sinful, a topic for another time, the gamer, etc. But the idea is that we are learning this verse in Tehillim. Adam, Achav Kedem Tartani, front and back was created, not to say, at least according to Shmuel, not to say that it means Chava was part of Adam's body. There was a second side, so to speak, to him that was her. Rather, it's implying something about the time he was created, that Adam was created last, that's behind is last, and front means